Good morning, good afternoon, salutations, all that good stuff. Anyway, here we are again with another episode of Who Closed Last Night, brought to you by Walnut Street Hospitality Group. My name is Stan.
And I am Zach.
And we are here to share some of our stories. Our hope is that by the time this is done, we're able to maybe give you some pointers. You know, this isn't school. This isn't for college credits. This is real life stuff.
Real life stuff. We're hoping to help you guys out with some of our experience. And don't forget to share your experience with us and teach us something, right? Follow, like, share us on Instagram at whoclosedlastnight_. Find us on Facebook at Who Closed Last Night. You can watch us on YouTube at Who Closed Last Night Podcast. Send your story, which is what I want, at whoclosedlastnightpod at gmail.com. And listen to us on Spotify.
There you go. I guess that's it. So here's how we work this thing. This thing is about, we do kind of break it into 4 sections. The first section is we've kind of got a question for you. Then we get into some real life examples, things that have happened to us, solutions that we may have had or failed at.
How we picked ourselves off the ground.
Yeah. And still had a couple teeth left.
Absolutely.
And then after that, we kind of summarize a lesson.
Yes.
What we hope maybe you'll get out of it. And by the way, you might get something different out of it, or you might say you guys are full of bull crap. And whatever works for you is what works for us. We're just trying to maybe give you some additional ideas or things that you may or may not have thought of. And then lastly, we'll get to some of the comments from our haters, our lovers, you know, whatever it is. But we love all of you. That's always a good time. And we'll give it to you straight, just like you do. Give it to us straight when you email us. So without further ado, we're going to get into this next episode. And this is about how do you control your cost of goods from an ordering standpoint? The big question is your money sitting on the shelf?
The answer is probably yes. Some portion of it.
Some portion of it is always sitting on the shelf, right?
That's correct. And it ruins your cash flow.
It ruins your cash flow. And I think some of the things that I would say is it tends to be more waste. It tends to leave opportunity for inventory shrinkage. There's a lot of things that can happen, right?
When there's a plethora of inventory, people think that they could eat a little more or this won't be missed.
That's exactly right. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So the question is, every business orders, right? Some sort of cost of goods. And how do you control that ordering, and what is it that determines how much or how frequently you order? So there's a couple, that's the big question. So Zach, what are some of the questions that you think need to be answered before you can come up with those answers?
That's a great question, and you got to know it before you go down this road, right? The first one is, how many times do I get an order in a week, right? And each business sets this up with their vendor when they sign a contract, and they agree on what days and when they'll get an order, right? So how frequently can you get an order? Is there a minimum to your order? Do you have to order 15 cases? Do you have to order $2,000 worth of merchandise? Those are things you need to know, those details. 3 would be, when can I get my next order? So it kind of crosses back to number 1, but you got to think of how many days of business, how many days of operation does this order need to last me to get to my next delivery date, right? And I would say 4, what is the velocity of my product inventory moving through my business, right? So if I order this case of whatever it might be, is it going to last me to 3 days to my next order date, or is it going to last me 7 days and get me through 2 order dates, and I only got to order once a week?
So there lies the questions, the sub questions that you have to have answered before you can answer the big question. So I think that one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to kind of break down each of these areas. But first of all, if you are already answering these questions for yourself or whoever is doing the ordering, we got to say this. Yay!
Winner, winner.
All right. So here's the first question. We're going to kind of break it down. How often do you get an order? And so why does that matter?
Because if you get an order once a week, you got to be prepared for more or less business than you typically have, right? Because it fluctuates to get you through 7 days of business.
Okay.
Right. You don't have a 2-day turnaround where you can pivot and, okay, I can make it without whole milk until Wednesday because my next delivery is Wednesday and then Friday. If you only get an order on Monday, you have to anticipate your business needs for 7 days.
So I think one of the things that you also have to ask yourself, is there a holiday in there?
Absolutely.
Right? Because I can't tell you how many times
This
I've
is the
gotten
advanced portion. This is after you get the 4 rules tied down. These are like the bonus questions you got to ask yourself. Is it a 3-day weekend? You're experienced.
Oh,
I like this.
Yeah. So those are the things, and there's all kinds of questions like that. Other things that will happen in this is, does your vendor have enough to get you to the next order?
Yes. Is it a special order project or product and you live on an island possibly and it takes a week to get out to the island before you can order it again?
So that's a little bit of insight into the first question, right?
Yes.
On when is your next order coming in? Okay, so what about the next one? Is there a minimum amount, right? And how does that typically work?
So I think just like any other operation, they try to, and this is all about when you set up with a vendor and whatnot, but I think that's probably understood, but I'm going to give them a little advance right here. You're the customer, right? You being the business that orders from the vendor, you're the customer. So the advanced part is everything's negotiable, right? We're partners. Let's say I'm using a big box vendor and they're telling me I can order twice a week, and I have this minimum. I might not need to hit that minimum for my business needs the second part of the week, and they're still requesting me to hit that. One, it's good for me to know what I need to order from them. Two, I want to make it fit my business need, right? So I'm going to call up my vendor and say, hey, look, we're partners. I'm looking for some help. Let me see what we can do. And I might be able to get that minimum pushed temporarily. If it's a slow season, I might be able to just dissolve it completely and not have an order minimum.
And so obviously that happens since you're
Yes.
talking about it. What percentage of success do you have with the vendor when you say, hey, I can't reach my minimum order on this next delivery? What can you do for me? What percentage of success do you have?
I would say that I probably have a 90% success rate, but I think it depends on how you communicate and who's communicating. My manager at one of the stores might only have a 40% success rate, right? And they probably didn't frame it in the same way that I would frame the question or speak to the decision maker, right? So I think there's 2 parts to that. Is depending on who on your team is asking for a special request, and then if you're a decision maker and if you signed up for the account and you have that rapport, I think it's 90+%.
Okay.
Because as the customer, everybody wants to please their customer.
Mm.
Right?
Sometimes,
right? Right?
Yeah, right. We do. But I think we're kind of an exception. So I'm going to take that back a little bit because I think there's a couple other things that go into the success rate.
Yeah.
That you have to be aware of and maybe be able to point out, right? One is, how good are you at paying your bills, right? So I think
very good.
If you pay your bills all the time on time and they're not chasing you, you probably have a little bit more of a leg to stand on, would you say?
I would totally agree with that. You have a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So but pay your bills on time. And then I think the other thing is, what is the total volume that you order, either as a company, as a multi-unit company? Is it worthwhile for them to bend a rule for you? And I think part of that is also, do you bend your rules for them, right?
I was hoping you would come across that.
Advanced, man.
Advanced. You're right. I'm sorry. But I would agree with that because we're all people. Nothing's ever perfect, right? And there's rules to everything in this world. But I think if you can roll with their punches,
Yeah,
they're going to be more inclined to roll with your punches.
yeah, I would agree.
It's a give and take.
It is a give and take. But one of the things that I will say, because you brought this up in one of the earlier comments, is, you sign an agreement. I'm telling you that other than being responsible for paying the bills when you sign that agreement, they'll change it up on you all the time. So
To fit their business needs.
to fit their business needs,
Yeah.
right? And I get it. And I think that's the symbiotic relationship
Yes.
maybe that you have to develop, because something is going to happen that is going to delay one of their deliveries. One of the things that we've had recently everywhere is the vendors that we use run out of drivers, right?
Yes.
With the labor market, they will call and say, "Hey, look, we're not able to deliver tomorrow. Can you take it the next day?" And
Can you pick it up? Oh,
can you
stab me in the heart, please?
Can you pick it up, right? And all of those things, there are times that you have to work with them, and times that you're paying them to have it delivered, right? And they're
Yes.
not taking anything
That's the
off of
service.
that bill when you go do a will call order. Anyway, so that's something to consider. The next question was, when is my next order? And that's where you got to think about spoilage, inventory shrinkage, just having too much.
Dust a little strategy on there, right?
Dust a little strategy. But what's funny, since you mentioned dust,
Uh-oh. Cut the record.
is when they order so much stuff and you can go write your name on the dust on the package, right?
Yes.
So there's a number, a can sitting somewhere, or a box sitting somewhere, and it's been there, so it's dusty. And it might just be, paper plates, disposable cups, whatever
And
it
it's
is.
in a master pack, right?
It's in a
what got
master
shipped to the
pack.
island.
But you can tell often that, we ordered too much of that. And when you have it the next month, you ordered too much, and you
Yes.
got money sitting on the shelf. So everything that you order, it costs something.
You're right. And I think where you're going with that is the PAR system, right?
Yes.
You have to know your business, the order and delivery dates of your vendors, and then the velocity of your SKUs that you're bringing in to be able to have a PAR.
So that's interesting. What a segue.
What a
Now
segue.
we're talking about velocity.
There we go.
There we go. We got so many toys here that I feel like I belong in a crib, and these are all my little things. Anyway, so velocity. Tell me about velocity.
So every business, most businesses have some kind of point of sale system, right? A cash register, right? You got to take your order, you got to scan something, you got to check out your customer. And usually this system will give you a P-mix, a product mix. And that's going to tell you whatever time frames you set this point of sale system to. It's going to display every item and how much of that item you sold over whatever the time frame is, right? We call that a P-mix. The P-mix is going to tell you what your velocity is of whatever offerings you sell as a business through whatever length of time you've dictated to it, right? So that's velocity. Did I explain that well?
I think you did.
All right. Can you sprinkle some experience on there?
So, okay, here's the experience part. Let's say, I'm going to back up a little bit and say that your velocity will change. So you can't just say, we're going to look at...
Advanced search.
If you look at it for 1 week, you might get I guess a skewed view of your business. You kind of have to look at it two ways. You have to look at it from a short term and then maybe a lengthier term like a month. And then you have to sprinkle in there. Do you have holidays coming up? Do you have, you got to know that you might, let's just say that the 4th of July is coming up and you sell burgers. Maybe the 4th of July weekend or that day is going to have an abnormal amount of burgers, right? Because grilling out, the little family pack that you have going on.
So your velocity is going to have a huge influx.
That's right.
That's not accounted for in last week's sales.
It's not accounted for, but you also have to, so you got to look into the future and say, do I have July 4th again next week? and
Right.
That's right. So I think the velocity of your items takes a little bit of strategy when you're looking at it. And just like the velocity, it's the same as the schedule. Do you add more people? Do you add more food? Do you add more of this product, more of that product? So I think it's important to remember that velocity all gets wrapped up into there. You got to know what you're selling when you're selling it.
And the goal is that your sales covers what you brought in so you can order fresh the next delivery date.
So one of the things that we always talk about is you order enough to get to your next delivery date.
Absolutely.
Right? Instead of enough to get you through the month or enough to get you, for an extended period of time.
Lean, mean business fighting machine.
There we go. So we're going to review these 4 items one more time. The first one is...
So how often can I get an order?
Perfect. And the second one?
Is there a minimum amount that qualifies me for delivery?
Yes.
An order?
Yeah, I got to toss this in here. This is advanced.
Uh-oh.
Especially now, fuel surcharges, right?
Yes.
So if you're getting 3 orders, you're going to get hit with that fuel surcharge 3 times.
In 1 week.
In 1 week. If you can reduce that, you can reduce that money that really gets you nowhere.
Yes, and I guess a part of the advanced secret menu here is that if you end up with a Monday, Wednesday, Friday delivery date, and you realize to hit the minimum, it's more strategic and behooves you as a business to maybe you only need a Monday and Friday.
Yeah.
Right? That could be beneficial to your operation because then you're not trying to squeeze extra cases 3 different times a week.
Right.
You spread out your order into 2 days from 3 days, and now you have no problem hitting that minimum.
So you hit the minimum and you've cut out one of your extra service charges, right?
Absolutely.
So now we're kind of down to the real life lesson, and this is what we hope that you take away. We've said a couple of things that were consistent throughout this whole podcast, and so the first thing is money sitting on your shelf being wasted, right? That's the real life lesson. If you got a bunch of stuff sitting on your shelf, it's like stacking money on your shelf.
None of us are fortune tellers.
And none of us are fortune tellers. And the other thing is, the more stuff you have on your shelves, the more it's inclined to disappear. And maybe not necessarily in the way that you want it to disappear. And so the lesson here is order what you need when you need it to get you to the next point in your ordering cycle. That be correct?
That is absolutely correct. And if you order that huge case of whatever that case is filled with, because it's a few cents cheaper, just ask yourself if you can predict the future, because who knows what's going to happen, and who knows if your business is going to be around in 14 months. It's going to take you to get through that extra case that saved you $5 this month.
That's exactly right. So we hope you've gotten something out of this, but now is one of those favorite times. First of all, again, we want to tell you, because we want you to follow us, right? Obviously, we like doing this. We want you to enjoy what we're doing. So how do they reach out to us?
It's super easy. You just got to stop everything you're doing right now. You got to follow, like, share. You can look us up on Instagram at whoclosedlastnight_. It's going to be the same thing on TikTok, whoclosedlastnight_. You can watch us on YouTube at Who Closed Last Night Podcast. You can listen to us at Spotify, at Who Closed Last Night. So we're just on every avenue trying to make it convenient for you. And even more important, help us learn something from you guys. Send your stories, send your experience, send your lesson to us at whoclosedlastnightpod@gmail.com.
Very good. So now comes the best part of this. We get to read a couple of comments or questions, right?
It's always spicy.
It's always spicy, and it's even better when some of the people making comments kind of turn against each other. That means they're not picking on us.
Yeah.
So here's the one, and this was regarding the podcast. Which would you rather have, loyalty or performance in your team members or team leaders?
And you know, we never claim that we're 100% correct in anything we do. We're sharing our experience, our knowledge, and what worked for us in our personal business.
And in the culture that we have.
Yes.
So, you know, maybe you have a different culture. And again, we love all the comments, even if they're banging on us or whatever. But anyway, here's one that says, and this is again between performance and loyalty. And she wrote, I believe the word you're looking for is integrity, not loyalty. Dogs are loyal. Ruff, ruff, ruff. I don't know.
Give this guy a treat.
But then a response that came from it was, you're a dog then. I think that's one of my favorite exchanges. But again, this is just our feeling, right? Integrity is important.
Absolutely.
Loyalty is important. And I tend to feel that people that are loyal have a certain sense of integrity. I think that people that have integrity might not necessarily be loyal to the cause or to the company, right? Although they may have integrity.
I would completely agree with you. And the title was about loyalty
versus performance.
But in this segment, we spoke about integrity.
We did speak about integrity.
But they're right.
They're absolutely right, but it wasn't about dogs versus cats.
No.
So let's just make that perfectly clear. We believe that you can be loyal without being a dog. And that's our opinion. We're sticking to it. Integrity, absolutely, you're correct. Integrity is very important to a work environment or a culture, but we believe that you can be loyal to the cause without being a dog.
That's correct.
Okay.
You don't just have to show up to play the game. You have to care about the game.
You have to care about the game and the people in the game, right?
That's
and
correct.
That's a loyalty kind of thing. So we hope that was fun for you, because barking is something I haven't done in a while, and so maybe I'll get to do it again sometime. So here we are. It's time for the end of our segment until next week, of course. And with that being said, we're going to tell you one more time to stop everything you're doing and reach out to us.
Reach out to us. Find us on Instagram at whoclosedlastnight_, same as TikTok. But more importantly, share with us your Who Closed Last Night story of the week, the day, the month, the hour, whatever happened last night, something that mortified you last week. whoclosedlastnight_ at gmail.com.
And with that being said, we're wrapping it up. One word for all of you.
Aloha!
Aloha.